The most powerful people in the room are never the loudest. They don't argue. They don't explain. They don't defend. They sit in silence and let the world reveal itself. But here is what no one ever tells you. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is a weapon. And most people never learn how to use it. We live in a world that is addicted to noise. Every opinion must be spoken. Every emotion must be posted. Every reaction must be immediate. Scroll through any feed and you will see it. People desperately filling silence. Filling it with arguments, with outrage, with performances of strength that reveal nothing but fear. Because that is what noise really is. Fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being invisible. Fear that if you stop talking, stop reacting, stop broadcasting your inner world to everyone around you, you will somehow disappear. And so we speak. We overshare. We react before we think. We send the message we know we will regret. We defend ourselves when no defense was needed. We explain ourselves to people who were never truly listening. The result? We leak our power. Drop by drop. Word by unnecessary word. You cannot lead yourself if you cannot control your own voice. And you cannot control your voice if you have never learned to be still. Over 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sat alone in the early hours of morning and wrote words that were never meant to be read. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He wasn't speaking to his armies. He wasn't performing for Rome. He was speaking to himself. In silence. Building himself from the inside out. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who rose to become one of the greatest philosophers in history, understood this at the deepest level. He taught that the root of all suffering is this: we speak and act before we have decided who we are. First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. And Seneca, the great Stoic writer, advisor to emperors, a man who had seen power and exile and everything in between, saw clearly what most people miss entirely. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. The Stoics were not passive men. They were not monks hiding from the world. They were warriors, emperors, leaders, people who carried enormous weight. But they understood something that most people in power forget. True strength does not announce itself. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics already knew. When you react immediately, when you fire back, defend, justify, explain, you are operating from the most primitive part of your brain. The amygdala. The region wired for survival, threat response, and fear. And here is what that means in practice. Every time someone provokes you and you react without pause, they are not just triggering your emotions. They are borrowing your mind. They are thinking through you. But the moment you go silent, the moment you pause and breathe and choose your response rather than being controlled by it, you take your mind back. Psychologists call this the response gap. The space between stimulus and action. The wider that gap, the more self-mastery you possess. The narrower it is, the more you are being lived by your emotions rather than living through them. There is also something deeper at play. When you speak less, people listen more. Not because you have said less, but because everything you do say carries weight. Scarcity creates value, in economics and in human communication alike. The person who speaks only when they have something worth saying becomes the person everyone waits to hear from. Meanwhile, the person who fills every silence with noise becomes background. Predictable. Safe to ignore. Silence also protects your inner world. When you reveal too much, your fears, your plans, your frustrations, you hand others a map to your weaknesses. Silence is armor. Not the armor of cowardice, but the armor of a man who knows that not every thought needs an audience. So how do you build this? How do you develop the kind of silence that becomes power? The first principle: pause before you speak. Make it a rule: before you respond to anything emotionally charged, a confrontation, a provocative message, a question designed to destabilize you, you wait. Even 3 seconds changes everything. That pause is not weakness. That pause is the beginning of mastery. The second principle: stop explaining yourself to everyone. You do not owe the world a running commentary on your choices. When you feel the urge to justify, to defend, to explain yourself to someone who has already decided what they think of you, stop. Your actions will speak long after your words no longer need to. The third principle: let the silence answer. When someone baits you, disrespects you, tries to pull you into an argument, silence is often the most devastating reply. Not silence from fear. Silence from choice. There is a profound dignity in the man who simply refuses to be disturbed. The fourth principle: guard your inner world. Not everything you feel must be expressed. Not every plan must be announced. Not every wound must be shown. The warrior builds his inner world in private and lets the world see only what he chooses to reveal. That selectivity is not deception. It is self-respect. The fifth principle: practice stillness daily. Silence is a muscle. You must build it. Sit without your phone. Walk without music. Eat without content. Give your mind the gift of emptiness and watch what emerges from it. Most people fear their own silence because they have never sat with themselves long enough to know who they truly are. The warrior sits. The warrior waits. The warrior listens. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the wisest. Think about the people in your life who carry real weight. Not the performers, not the ones who need to be seen, but the ones who, when they do speak, make the room go quiet. That is not an accident. That is years of discipline. Years of sitting with themselves when the world wanted them to react. Years of choosing presence over noise. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and wrote his deepest truths in a private journal no one was ever supposed to read. He didn't need the world to see his strength. He needed to build it. That is the work. Not performing silence for others. Not silence born from fear or withdrawal or emotional shutdown. But choosing silence because you have decided that your energy is sacred. That your words carry weight. That you will not be owned by a single moment of provocation or fear or need for approval. In the silence between your thoughts, you will find who you actually are. And once you know who you are, truly, deeply, without the noise to hide behind, no one can take that from you. If this spoke to something in you, if you felt something stir, then you are already on the path. Subscribe to Warrior Philosophy for more lessons on Stoicism, human psychology, and the ancient art of self-mastery. Every week we go deeper. Into the philosophy that has shaped the greatest minds in history. Into the psychology that explains who we are and why we do what we do. Into the discipline that separates the man you are from the man you are becoming. The work never stops. Welcome to Warrior Philosophy.